my con week. So it's time to go
Ah.
be a voyeur in downtown and watch everybody. Have you ever done that?
My kids
Have
have,
you ever gone
and they've
downtown?
always recommended
I'm
that I
telling
do
you.
that, but I've never actually done it. I mean,
You
I've seen
really ought
they
to.
send me all kinds of pictures because it's like it's wild how they dress up, and I'm the Mandalorian. I'm going, dude, you've got some like ultimatum things on your shoulders, and yeah,
It's so much better than Halloween, I think. It's, I mean, because these guys and gals, ladies, that's a collective, guys. They are serious. I mean, cosplay. I don't know if you've heard that term,
oh yeah,
and that's basically what they're doing. So that's serious business, serious money now across all social media, across just environments. So this is it's just kind of fun to go into a fantasy world and just see how people's minds and and then if you're a big fan like I am of things like Marvel, and I like X-Men
oh yeah,
and all the Star Wars stuff. It's just kind of fun to be there.
yeah.
Although this year they're not going to have any of the studios, I guess, because of the stuff. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see, and they're spending a lot of money, and San Diego's making more money, and that's good for all of us.
Oh yeah, I love that it comes to San Diego. I mean, it's like this. They wouldn't dare take it anywhere else because San Diego is just such a cool place to do it. This time of year, San Diego is just unbelievable. I mean, this is the hardcore into the middle of summer. And when we say it's hot, that means it's 90. And other people say hot at 90. Are you kidding me? I'm right, down there in the convention center. It's not that hot. It's so cool. That's fun.
It's not even hot at all on the coast.
Oh, yeah, you're on Coronado Island. So it's like hot. What? I'm sorry. That was a breeze that I just felt. I know. Like we say,
It was definitely.
every time it's like fantasy. Do I feel guilty because I live in San Diego and because hot for us is like 90? No, I don't feel guilty.
Yeah. No, I gave up guilt. I decided I gave it up for good. Yeah. I had guilt last week, but that's over. It's done. No
It's
guilt.
over. Yeah, because we're suffering from 89-degree heat. And then on Coronado, it's like 86 degrees. Wow. 6 degrees warmer than Hawaii.
No, actually my phone, my car said 80 straight up, 80, 81. You couldn't have it any more perfect there. So I'm happy.
That's terrific. Hey, we have a new feature.
Yes, we do.
Everybody. On Wednesdays, we have a new feature that Ken has come up with. And so we're going to do that right now. The new feature is I think this is fun. What is the cheapest and what is the most expensive sales in San Diego County? Is that where we're going with this, Ken?
Yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun. We're on here every month. We're talking about buying and selling property. We talk about all sorts of different things, but it's kind of fun just to see what's kind of happening out there. And we talk about market stats. So I just thought, what's the most expensive? What's the cheapest? If somebody wanted to call in and ask something specific about a specific neighborhood, I could tell you, I could look it up while we're online. So just, but in general, I thought I'd kind of focus on the county every week. And if anybody ever wanted something specific, we could always target that during the call.
Terrific.
So
if you do have a call, it's 888-344-1170. But because no one has called yet, we are going to have lines open for the whole hour. You got Ken, the expert, real estate expert, 888-344-1170. So Ken, cheapest and most expensive sales of the week, San Diego County. Oh my gosh, I'm holding my breath.
Okay, I'm going to give you three cheapest because I went to the cheapest and I go, I bet other people want to know. So the cheapest property, real property you can buy in San Diego this last week, it closed. Now, these are things that closed escrow, done. There's a new owner. In the last 7 days, happened in El Cajon, and it was a manufactured home. It was 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,140 square feet. So, that's pretty big actually for a manufactured home. And it closed for $100,000, flat bang. 100,000. See, in San Diego County, you can get into the real estate game. $100,000. Who said it can't be done? Right there. And
all right.
And a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. There's probably some HOA fees because of where they're located. They always have common ownership fees, which would be a few $100 for the rent. but still, $100,000, El Cajon. All right. So that's the very lowest
2 minutes.
county this week. Now,
Okay.
what a lot of people might say, well, I don't want to be in a manufactured home. The very lowest price condo that sold and closed escrow this week was in San Ysidro. It was a studio, 400 square feet, which that's pretty decent size for a studio, and it closed. Drum roll,
Mhm.
230,000. So
Okay, what was the
that
square
closed
foot?
for 230,000.
400 square foot
That-
condo.
400 square feet.
Okay,
That manufactured home for 100K is looking pretty good in El Cajon, isn't it?
that's actually
Like-
nice. Some of those manufactured homes seriously are. I have some clients with them, and they're incredible. You go, whoa, this is sweet. Double, triple
Yeah.
wide, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Very
Yeah,
cool.
until you go there, you're totally shocked. You don't realize just how nice it can be there. And then the lowest priced house. So when I say house, I mean house that has land underneath it, single family house
Mhm.
that you're conveying the land. There's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath,
1 minute.
and it closed in Pine Valley, and it sold for 273,000 on there. Those are the 3 lowest. Okay.
Okay,
Now,
excellent.
The highest.
The highest, people
the
are going to have
highest-
to wait. Got to wait for it. Coming up next, you guys are listening to the Word on Wealth. And coming up, we are going to give you the highest, most expensive sales in San Diego County. We're giving you the lowest manufactured home, condo, and house. And now our next thing we're going to talk about is the most expensive. You're listening to Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law and Ken Pecus, the founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. To get a hold of Ken directly, all of your real estate needs, single family residence, multifamily, commercial property, 619-977-8419. You will love talking to Ken. I have had nothing but rave reviews about, thank you for sending me to Ken. Ken knows what he's talking about. I know that, guys. That's why he's the partner with me on the shows on Wednesday, 619-977-8419. Coming up next, the most expensive in San Diego County, right here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time, we can screen and clean your investments at no cost to you? It's absolutely complimentary. Just go to the website right now, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing. It's free as well. You deserve to know the truth as the investor. Then the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advisors. You can feel good about investing with confidence. So learn more now. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com or call me at 931-RETIRED. Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of the Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on the Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecus has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecus is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecus.com. That's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
That is
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is now the feature, our Wednesday feature with a real estate expert, Ken Pecus. We have explained through Ken's marvelous eyes and research the cheapest, least expensive homes sold in San Diego County. We've got those three. Now we're moving on to the most expensive homes sold in San Diego County. Ken, dun, 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 dun.
This week.
This week.
All right, we're going to say this week. Just this week.
Okay.
Every week we're going to have new starts, but this week it falls in the Rancho Santa Fe community of Fairbanks Ranch, and that's a wonderful. I don't know if you've been up in Fairbanks, but I love it.
Yeah.
I've had some listings up there, and so this one sold. It closed escrow at $6,450,000, which in the terms of Fairbanks, La Jolla, Del Mar is reasonable. And it was a 7,726 square foot house. It had 5 bedrooms, 6 baths. It had a beautiful pool, a theater, and it's if you know Fairbanks, and a lot of people I've had same thing. It's construction by a very well-known builder up there. It's a Danny Hampel property, and so this one was 7,700 square feet. The one I had listed. Are you ready for this? It was 12,000 square feet on one level.
Wow.
Like, you got to take a golf cart to drive through there.
Yeah, you're going to have to put it on a quarter of an acre. Just wow, that's incredible. Wow.
You have to do it. So anyway, that's the big news for property. Property is selling, and it reflects the overall market. Since the last couple of weeks, inventory has stayed super tight. In fact, there's a little bit more going into pending than coming on new. So nothing has changed from the last few weeks that we've been talking about when it comes down to inventory. So San Diego's healthy.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So if I do the math, I go let's see, the least expensive, 100,000. The most expensive is 6.4 million. So that means we sold, let's see, so it was 64 times as expensive. So 640% difference between manufactured home in El Cajon and Rancho Santa Fe Fairbanks Ranch home. There you go.
For this week. Next week it could be 15 million. So we'll see. There's some pretty big stuff that I think is pending right now. So, but I kind of shows that San Diego is an environment for all people. There's every level of product out there. So wherever you are in your world and what you want to do, there's probably something in San Diego for you. So that's the good news coming out for me.
Now, the one thing, my wife, Cheryl, and I were driving, I don't know where we were driving. We're driving all over the place, but we were talking the other day about real estate investments. And it was very interesting in going into different neighborhoods around town. We were in North Park. We were in the Kensington area. We were in Hillcrest area down, El Cajon, all these different areas that we were, finding things and dropping things off and making some deliveries and stuff like that. And it was interesting because we have talked on this show about how depending on how much money you have, you can invest in certain areas and all that. And my mindset was, it was really, since I've been, talking to you on the show about this, it's really changed my mindset a lot about like buying rental property. Meaning, I think a lot of us, at least my mindset is like, well, but I wouldn't rent that property. I wouldn't want to live there. And so therefore I wouldn't want to own that property because I wouldn't want to live there. And I started thinking, well, that's kind of a weird mindset. It's like, well, I live where I live, and it's taken me, 35 years to get where I am so I could afford to live where I live. I love where I live. It's a wonderful place. We love our beautiful home. And I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. So if I have this mindset, like, well, I wouldn't rent anywhere else. Well, that's kind of silly. I'm not going to rent my home out because my home wouldn't rent for, it proportionate to value and cost and all that stuff. It wouldn't be a good rental. And so I was just going through the mindset, and Cheryl says, you know what? We're thinking about this all wrong. We don't have to think that we want to live there. It's a matter of, is there a piece of property where the amount of money that you can make, the amount of rent versus the amount of your investment makes you money? And I said, that's what Ken is talking about on our show constantly, is kind of these mindsets of where you're going with real property. When you start out a house, when you're saying something is worth, 280 or 480 or 580 or $1.8 million, it just depends on what they are, how they produce. And all those are numbers that a guy like me that isn't like this professional real estate guy, I can't get my head around. So that's why we have you. And that's why I really appreciate, helping out.
It's so funny you bring this up because I haven't even talked to you about this, but the second half of the show, I have a topic that kind of leads right into that mindset and how to help you think. So that was my surprise second half topic for the day is, how do you want to think this through? And Cheryl and I must be absolutely syndicating our brainwaves because that's where she's thinking. She's thinking absolutely correct. But before I go to there, I want to give you a couple of little overall information.
Yes,
and
for
then
sure.
and then I think we should we can dive into that, right?
Okay, perfect.
So so let's talk about the market, because what I think is really important is we all get fed by emotions. We all make these decisions based on how we feel. I don't care how pragmatic people are, and I call myself a non-ideological pragmatist. I got that from somebody else. I'm holding on to it because it's just the way I think. But even in that respect, we make decisions emotionally based on whatever data we're absorbing. So it's really important where you get this data from. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that came out in economic news this week is from the National Association of Builders. In fact, housing starts for May were down, for June were down from May. And they put something out that was very, very interesting to myself. And I'm like, huh? And what they said is they believe we're in a housing recession. Okay. And I'm like, how, based on what I'm seeing on the ground, how could they possibly believe we're in a housing recession? And so I studied a little bit more, and I found an interview actually with the head of the association and with Lawrence Yun. And Lawrence Yun is the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. And he was interviewing him. And here's one of the things about it. It's how we're interpreting what they're saying. My interpretation of a housing recession was completely different than really what they mean when they say a housing recession. So the industry is in a housing recession, and the recession means that housing starts are down, the employment of the housing industry is down, the sales numbers of the housing industry is down. And so the housing industry itself is in a recession. That's not housing that's in a recession. Because then Lawrence Yun brought up, he goes, actually, when it comes down to homeowners and property owners across the country, and he's talking across the country, not just locally Southern California. He said they're feeling very, very strong about the housing right now. Anybody that's bought, whether they bought this year, whether they bought at the end of last year, whatever, even if they bought during the COVID spikes, they're all feeling really, really good because housing is very strong. And it comes down to, because of the value gains, and it comes down to the inventory. So even though the industry is in a recession, and you might hear that, don't confuse that if you're listening to something else, that housing itself is in a recession, because at this moment, it's not in a recession. As far as I can tell, as far as everything, which kind of brings us to the latest economic news this week that kind of affects how we should think about housing, and if we're looking at building portfolios, if we're looking at buying stuff. So got some more really interesting information. So
and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the way you're defining that, it's really, one of the things that we're trying to be really careful of is we get into kind of these news cycles. We're in, our mindset kind of now is that information is instant. When we want to know the answer to a question, it's really funny. I mean, my grandkids do this. I go, gosh, I can't remember. I'm trying to multiply this out. What would be the tax on something that's $14.77? Hey, Siri, what's the tax in California on $14.77? And they get an answer. I go, holy cow. I know how to do that, but I don't think that way. And so everything we get is an instant answer. And whatever comes out of the little boxes, we go, it's true. Got to be true. So you get these numbers, the industry's down, housing recession, inflation's with this. It's like we have all these numbers and we kind of instantly assume, A, that we understand what those numbers really mean, and B, that they're true. But then how are we applying this? Well, they're true in what circumstance, and how does it really apply to me? And I think that's where we are way too snappish, where we say, oh my gosh, that's terrible. But then if you look at it, well, but how does it affect me? Oh, it doesn't affect me at all.
Exactly. It's putting a filter and a lens, a good filter through what you're hearing, so that the information's all good, but make sure you're applying the information correctly. That's the key. So if you hear this stuff about the housing recession, and if it's coming from these sources, what they're actually talking about is the industry itself. The other thing I saw, this was so enlightening. There's a company, we've talked about CoreLogic, but there's this other company that gives us so much data, especially as real estate agents and commercial agents. It's called Altos Research, and they track almost every single property that sells in the country. They're constantly tracking. They're looking at trends. We have the crazy, if we as an agent want it, we have access to crazy cool reports where we can see what's happening up to the minute in all the sub-market.
2 minutes.
Carlsbad, if you want Carlsbad, whatever, we can get that. And this is nationally. So Altos came out this week and said something. I listened to their whole stuff, something that's so incredible. They said that the peak of inventory availability this year looks like it might end up being New Year's week, that we started New Year's 2023. So that we would have had the most inventory on the market on that first week in January. And since then, inventory has been below. So to put it in context, usually New Year's week, and when we come out at Christmas time, that is usually the low point of the year, because that low point of the year, because people stop putting property on the market and we have absorption that's going on. And then in January, certainly people, every year it cycles the same thing. People start getting to
1 minute.
People start calling, this is the year I'm going to buy a house. This is the year I'm going to buy a condo. This year I'm going to do whatever. And since people can buy quicker than they can sell, inventory starts shrinking, and it causes that spring craziness, which then results in crazy. And then as we get to June, July, August, then we start getting inventory building. But right now, because of how strong the market is, we might have seen our inventory peak for the entire year, and that's what they're predicting. That's a crazy number.
That's interesting. I'm fascinated and thrilled to hear kind of your take on that. Like, what does that really mean for our industry, our real estate industry? Ken Pecus, you guys, I want you to have his number. You know, he knows what he's talking about. 619-977-8419 to have your private conversation with him and his team. 619-977-8419, or his website is kenpecus, pecus.com. All right, coming up next, Ken's going to explain, because I'm going to make him do this. Tell me what that really means, having the New Year's week being the inventory high for the year. Coming up next here on the Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST. You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're live.
Hey guys, so glad you're here on the Word on Wealth. Today is Wednesday, and that's the day that we get our expert Ken Pecus here. Ken, you have just explained about this Altos research about they come out and they track properties in all across the country on properties that are sold, and then they've now stated that New Year's week 2023 was the peak in the inventory. But that's different than you would expect, and it's different than historical, right? So, and
Right.
So, and how does that affect our thinking and our mindset, and how do we deal with that now?
Well, it's really good mindset. So what happens, like we try to say before the break, is we get into the spring market. Almost every market, whether the overall market is good, bad, or whatever, the spring market is always brisk. People are always in the spring. As we get into May and June, people that haven't really thought about selling their house see that property is selling and go, maybe I should sell my property. And then usually in May, June, and July, people start putting property on the market. And then people from the spring who weren't successful in buying property, they get frustrated and they kind of pull back from the market. And usually what ends up happening is in July, August, September, the inventory builds. And so that's why you have a natural slowdown, people go on vacation. And then as you get into September through the end of the year, same thing happens, but the inventory doesn't build, but people start absorbing it again. So there's some very natural cycles that happen in the market, and they happen year in and year out if you just recognize it. But right now, what's happening is the traditional sleepy July, August time period is not showing itself because, like I said earlier, we had this last week, just because I'm looking at it every week, week over week, we had more property go pending under contracts than we had property come brand new on the market. So the inventory is continuing not to build. If you look back in 2022, the second half of 2022, when those interest rates were starting to spike and the market kind of slowed, compared to this year, Altos, same thing, is they are feeling like within a month or two, the number of contracts that are going to start going under contract, number of properties is going to start far exceeding last year's numbers, meaning that in the second half of the year. So as it turns out for 2023, we're probably going to even out to 2022, even though 2022's beginning was so much better than our beginning. Sounds kind of convoluted, but their beginning was better. Their end was 2022's beginning was better. 2022's end was slower. For 2023, our 2023 beginning was slower. 2023 end looks to be very brisk. And it all leads to those big words, soft landing. And that is what is coming out right now. We talked about it a little bit last week, and there's even more. So, and this time, Altos has actually come out and said they think housing is going to come into a soft landing also. And if you want just a soft landing definition for housing, it describes the market when it's transitioning from a crazy hot market to a normal stable market. So a lot of times when you have a crazy hot market, think of back in 2006, 6 and 7, or 4, 5, 6 and 7. It was just ridiculous, right? Because the way the lending was, whatever, it resulted in a crash because it created a bubble. So they being economists, being government, being industry people, everybody is always trying to avoid that crash landing. They don't want that massive housing depreciation or the industry collapsing and going into this massive recession. So whether you're the Fed, whether you're the government, whether you're the state, whether you're at JP Morgan or Citibank or whoever, or the owners of your radio station, nobody really wants that crash. Everybody wants a nice, smooth landing where they can just look out the window and say, oh, we're here. And that apparently seems to be coming in. And if you listen to national economists, even more, last week, I think I mentioned, a bunch of different economists that, whether it was Bank of America, whether it was NAR, whether it was Wells Fargo, whatever, that were saying that it's appearing more and more like there's a economic soft landing coming. Well, now the housing people are saying they think it's going to be an economic soft landing coming. So what does that mean? What does that mean to us? That means if you're somebody that needs confidence for when you buy, you're somebody that gets afraid of making the wrong move because the market might crash or whatever, the early tea leaves all over the country are saying, doesn't look like there's going to be a crash coming. Are you sure you want to stay on the sidelines? Because you're going to look back on this moment and say, gosh, I should have, would have, could have, and all the signs were there and I didn't listen. That this could be an amazing time to get in, and you're probably looking at a couple of, at least a year or two before we are looking at the tea leaves again and saying, what's going on? Just how it's looking at from an overall macroeconomic view.
Excellent. And I've always been really a big fan. It depends a lot on what you're doing with the money and why you're buying, what your purpose is, what you intend to get out of it. Are you going long view or short view? And I think so many times, the people that regret what happened in the real estate market are the ones that stayed on the sideline too long. They're saying, whether it's being too conservative or too protective or whatever, not understanding what's going on, reading the tea leaves, like you're saying, and reading it wrong because maybe they've got, they just don't have the data, or they're not analyzing it right. They don't have the filter and the lens on the news and all that stuff that they're, I think those are the ones that get hurt. I had a friend several years ago. It was really interesting. The real estate market was really hot and they decided to sell, and it was kind of sad. They're really wonderful people and they're a lot of fun to be with. And they said, yeah, we sold, we're in escrow. And I went, you know what? This is a great area to live. The guy, I know, but the real estate market's going to pop. And we just, we sold because the market is as high as it's ever going to get. And we're selling and we're going to invest our money and we're going to hang on to it till the market. Let's go.
Yeah.
Ken's
See,
like,
oh,
so yeah, that was probably 10 years ago. And it hasn't ever gone down in the last day. It was sad. It was kind of, I said, no, you guys, I've been in San Diego for like my whole entire life. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. If history is any indication, real estate in the long view in San Diego always goes up. So they sold, they moved into they rented for a year, several years. And basically what happened is they just lost their shorts. I mean, they couldn't get back into a house because they just jumped out of the market and thought they'd wait it out. Weird.
Everybody I've talked to, when they call me to sell, the first time, I mean, before we do it, I mean, most of the time, everybody that calls me, I'm not really being interviewed. It's all done by referral for the most part.
Mhm.
So I have a relationship, and my conversation to them is, why are you selling? And if you're going to sell, tell me you're selling because you're going to be buying something different. But if you're selling for any reason, just to get out of the market or whatever, I'm going to spend that entire conversation trying to convince you not to do this.
Mhm.
And saying, is there any way around it? Because it exactly what happened to your client, I would say that I would have that same discussion today. If anybody thinks that I need to sell today because we're too overvalued, overpriced, whatever, I'm going to just tell you right now, no, we're not. Don't sell because that is why you think. If you're selling because
2 minutes.
you need to do something in your life, you need the money, because if you don't sell, you don't have enough money to go to the grocery store, and this is your only totally different subject, right?
Yeah.
But if you're selling because you think the market is overheated or whatever, that's a big mistake. You need to sell and buy again. You need to stay in the market somehow.
Mhm.
And so that is the conversation. And so now I was thinking maybe we'll flip back to what Cheryl was talking about and what you were talking about really fast.
Okay.
About when you're looking at rental, because I'm kind of cognizant of time now, Gary. I'm kind of watching
This
things.
is good. This is good. Yeah, because we're gonna have, so you guys listen up. We're going to the top of the hour with Ken Pecus. And if you got your questions, now's the time to ask. It's 888-344-1170. You can get on the air with Ken and ask him your question
1 minute.
so that we can answer it for you. I'm going to give you a couple of numbers that you need to remember. Anything to do with real property, buying, selling, whether it's a rental property or single family, 619-977-8419. If you're thinking about, maybe I'd like to get into real estate, maybe that's a good idea for me, don't do it without talking to Ken and his team and seeing whether that fits into your goals and your lifestyle, your risk tolerance. 619-977-8419. All right, what we got coming up is the thing about like building a real estate portfolio, it requires a particular mindset. So and Ken's going to disclose that coming up is what is the mindset if you're going to build a real estate portfolio, because without the mindset, maybe it just doesn't fit. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but we're going to find out from Ken what the mindset should be. And we're going to talk about building your real estate portfolio. All right. We're going to be back in a second. Ken's not, and remember our number to call is 888-344-1170. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
So Gary, we've talked a long time about estate administration. So what is that and why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. They'll have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQ Law.
You're live.
You're listening to The Word on Wealth. Today is Real Estate Day, and we are talking. You're gonna find out right now the mindset. If you're going to be a real estate investor, you're going to build your real estate portfolio. This is Ken Pecus, founder of the Pecus Group, the real estate mindset. Ken, take it away.
All right. So let's go back to the conversation that you and Cheryl had when you were driving around. I think nothing could be better than starting with that. When you're buying property, when you're investing in property, you need to put aside your personal thought process about whether or not you would live in that property. One of the things that gets in the way of people is they put their own needs onto a property, and you can't monetize a property that way, because what you do in your own house and whatever, that type of thing, you do it to make it comfortable, you do it for whatever reason. One other part that people like to do is say, well, if something ever goes wrong, I can move into this rental. If I run short of money or I have to sell my house, I can move into this rental. I'm going to just tell you, that's if you're going to build an investment portfolio, you cannot think that way. If you think there's the risk of you losing everything or whatever, maybe you shouldn't be building a real estate portfolio. You've got some other issues that you have to kind of work through. And I would say those issues are more along the lines of current stability. So the first thing, take out of your brain whether or not you would live there, whether or not the location is appropriate for you or anything like that. You're going to evaluate property based on that property itself, how it sits in its micro market, the amount of rent that property is generating. You have to look at that property in its own market and say, is that reasonable for that market? So in other words, let's say you live in Carlsbad and you have a two bedroom condo, and the 2-bedroom condo is renting for $3,200 a month or something like that. Okay. I'm just going to pick, because it's a nice condo, go there. Now you're looking at these rental units, potentially a 2, a 3, or a 4 unit. And let's say those rental units are in Escondido, and you look at these rentals and it's long-term tenants, and the tenants are low, have not had their rents raised or whatever. And you're evaluating that Escondido property, and you're evaluating where it can go. the reverse mistake is to say, well, the Carlsbad condo is renting for 3,200. I'm sure we can get 3,200, maybe 3,000, a little bit less, whatever. No. That's not how you evaluate where those potential rents are. You would look at that 2-bedroom condo or 2-bedroom apartment in Escondido, and you would see where its space is amongst its own market. Okay. You can't take your own personal whatever it is, your own personal feelings and put it at. So everything you look at it in that market.
Mhm.
And remember, you want to look at it as who your demographics are in that market. The demographics might be people that commute a lot. So it might be, just because a property is sitting on a heavy trafficked place doesn't mean it's not going to be rented all day long, because there's some people that want to be able to just walk a block or 2 or 3 to public transportation. They don't have a car, they don't have whatever, but they have enough money to pay the market rent for that place. So as soon as you can like take yourself out of the picture into some things, it opens up a whole bunch of, sub-markets that you can rent. Number 2, it's super important for you to stop thinking in terms of you managing that property. And because things that drive people insane and say, I'm not going to buy rental property, whatever, I don't want to get a call at 10 o'clock at night that my toilet is stopped up, or that this flood or this, whatever. If you're going to build a rental portfolio, you really want to put into your return of investment, into your ROI, the expenses. And in those expenses, there should be professional property management. I mean, I'm a real estate agent. I consider myself very, very competent, to do whatever. I will not even manage my own rental units. Absolutely not. I pay a separate property management company who I think is, just rock stars, and I pay them well, and I don't pay them cheap. I pay them, arguably high rates to manage my properties, and it's because they are that good.
Mhm.
And so you want to put in your brain, when you're ready to go into a portfolio and you started from the beginning, don't be the manager. That way your emotions can't get involved in making a good financial decision.
Mhm.
You get excellent, trustworthy, honest property management that has a great track record. And as soon as you have those 2 things, you're ready to go start, looking and investing, because whether it's in Escondido, it can be in Ramona, it can be in San Ysidro, it can be in Coronado, it can be wherever you want, right? But no matter where those are, you want to put all the expense structure into it. And whether you're starting out with one little condo to start out with to build this portfolio, or you're starting out with something more substantial, as soon as you take it out of your hands and into it, what you do is you keep focused on where you're making money, and that generally is your job, your career, whatever.
Mhm.
And you put that money aside to keep building more and more, but you don't have to have sleepless nights about what's going on with your property management,
Right.
with your rentals.
Exactly. You're wondering whether you're going to get the call in the middle of the night because it starts to rain. I mean, I have a really, really good friend that's an incredible property manager. They've got properties all over San Diego, and it's talking to him. It's interesting hearing him, like, I'm going, yeah, it's raining today. And he goes, I know. I'm a property manager. We do single family residences and multis all over San Diego County. I know it's a rainy day. Believe me, we've gotten the calls. We've got this, we got that. Oh, it's a hot day. And he goes, I know. We've got our,
No.
HVAC guys out there since, 4 o'clock this morning. They worked last night till 1 o'clock. It's like, I go, you like this business? He says, I have a really good team. So it's like, yeah, really good property manager. No, I totally get it. It's like financial manager, money manager. That's why, we've got Anthony on Thursdays. That's why I use Anthony. I think it's cool to know all this stuff that you're talking about, but as far as my property management and investing in real property, I'm going to question you on this stuff, but I don't do this for research every day. I do what I do, and I'm super good at that. So it's like, I do what you do, what and have experts that help you understand that. I mean, my feeling really is, I've been involved in real estate since I was a little kid. I was someday I'll tell you the long story, but so I understand and I'm very comfortable around, property and maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So I understand it. I don't want to do it anymore, but I understand it. So that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. As far as other things like how do you make money grow? How do you get into, puts and calls and straddles and when not to, and all that kind of stuff. That's like, I have a degree in business finance. I'm not a professional in that. I get it. I like it, but I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to have somebody else who's an expert that has the responsibility. So I just, I love this mindset that you're talking about. If you're thinking of getting into real property, here are some of the things, to evaluate your own real property portfolio, to increase your real property portfolio. If you're interested, you guys, if you're interested in just getting started, like, could this really happen? You can even ask Ken, because we've asked him on the air before, like, well, Ken, what if I inherited $200,000? And Ken goes, oh, well, you can buy here, you can make this much money here, all the numbers. What if I inherited $500,000? Oh, well, what if I only got 50,000? And then that's where we start to talk different numbers, but it's different than you think. I mean, the mindset isn't like, well, I wouldn't maintain the property. I wouldn't necessarily live there. I don't want, of course, I mean, because you're not a tenant. You don't want to do that anymore. But I like the mindset idea. And just guys, Ken's number again, 619-977-8419.
2 minutes.
Ken, we got about 2 minutes to wrap the show. So I'm going to let you do the last 90 seconds of talking. Talk to us about, where we are, how we should be thinking, and then, to get us through the next week.
All right. So, yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff and we'll talk next week. So one of the things when you're starting to set up a portfolio, I like to simplify everything for me. I like to simplify. And if I simplify it, I think of myself right now and I think, if I didn't have income coming in from my career, from my real estate, if I didn't have earned income coming in, and I wanted to live the exact same kind of life where I get to travel, I get to do this, whatever, just how much money in today's dollars, 2023 dollars, would I need, right? So the first step is, if people are looking to build a portfolio for their retirement, let's say you're not going to need this money for 20 or 30 years. This is going to be for retirement. But think of it in today. How much money would I have to be getting in today in income right now in order for me to live my life?
A minute.
Because if you can figure that number out right now, you can work backwards to figure out how much units you need and do all the other calculations to set up a plan going out over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And it's a much simpler way of figuring out what you want to do.
I love it. Ken, these are things that we're not going to get anywhere else. You guys listening to Word on Wealth, we're grateful that you're on board listening. Every Wednesday, we got Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group. You got Ken every day you want. Here's his cell phone number, 619-977-8419. The other way to get a hold of him is go to his website, kenpecus.com, Pecus.com, kenpecus.com. And you can learn all about him, learn about his company, meet his company, give him a call. And always, we love you to listen along to the show. We'll be back tomorrow with Anthony Wright, finding out about our money. And it's going to sound a lot like we talked about today. These guys know what the heck they're talking about. We're grateful to have Ken on our Word on Wealth as a partner. Thanks, Ken. And everybody, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, man.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs.